Hello, friends. Most people who receive Social Security have never thought carefully about the mail that comes from the SSA, a cost of living adjustment letter, a Medicare summary, an annual benefit statement. Most of it is routine, and most of it can wait. But there is one letter, one specific piece of mail from the Social Security Administration that is not routine, that cannot wait, and that, if you set it aside to deal with later, can trigger a chain of events that cuts your monthly check in half before you've had a chance to respond. Hundreds of thousands of these letters go out every single year. A significant number of the people who receive them don't fully understand what they're looking at. Some assume it's a mistake and ignore it. Some mean to call but wait too long. Some respond incorrectly and lose rights they didn't know they had. The letter is an overpayment notice, and today I'm going to tell you exactly what it is, why SSA sends it, what it has the power to do to your benefits, and, most importantly, the exact steps you need to take on the day it arrives. Not the next week. Not after you've talked to your family. The day it arrives. Before we get into it, subscribe to this channel right now and turn on the bell. This is exactly what I cover. The SSA rules that can hurt you financially, explained in plain English before they affect your check. The people watching here find out before it becomes a crisis. Subscribe now and let's get into it. Let's start at the beginning because a lot of confusion around these letters comes from people not fully understanding what SSA is claiming when they send one. An overpayment notice is a formal letter from the Social Security Administration stating that, according to their records, they paid you more money than you were entitled to receive. The letter will state a specific dollar amount, sometimes a few $100s, sometimes several thousand, and it will demand that you repay that amount. The reasons SSA sends these letters fall into three broad categories. The first is a change in your circumstances that affected your eligibility or benefit amount, something like going back to work, getting married, receiving an inheritance, or a change in living arrangements that either wasn't reported to SSA or wasn't processed correctly when it was. The second is an error in SSA's own calculations. This happens more than most people realize. The SSA's own Inspector General has documented tens of thousands of cases where overpayments resulted entirely from mistakes inside the agency, incorrect data, misapplied rules, clerical errors, with no fault on the part of the person receiving the letter. The third is retroactive adjustments. Sometimes SSA recalculates a benefit going back months or even years and determines that payments made during that period were higher than they should have been. The person receiving those payments had no reason to know anything was wrong. The checks arrived. They deposited them. They lived on them. And then a letter arrives saying the money needs to come back. Whatever the reason, the letter carries the same legal weight and the same deadline. And that deadline is what makes this letter unlike almost any other piece of mail you will ever receive from a government agency. Here is what most people don't understand until it's too late. And it's the part of this letter that makes it genuinely dangerous to ignore. If you receive an overpayment notice and you do not respond within 30 days, the Social Security Administration does not send a second letter. They do not call. They do not wait for a convenient time. They begin withholding money directly from your monthly benefit check, automatically, without further warning, until the full amount they say you owe has been recovered. Under the current rules as of 2026, SSA can withhold up to 50% of your monthly benefit to recover an overpayment. On a $1,600 monthly check, that's $800 gone every single month until the debt is cleared. On a $2,000 check, that's $1,000 per month. For someone living on a fixed income, losing half of their Social Security without warning is not a financial inconvenience. It is a crisis. It is worth understanding how we got to 50%. Under the Biden administration, the withholding cap was set at 10% of your monthly benefit, $160 on a $1,600 check. Painful but manageable. In early 2025, under the Trump administration, that cap was first raised to 100%, meaning SSA could legally take your entire monthly check to recover what they said you owed. After significant public backlash, it was reduced to 50%. That is where it stands today. The change from 10% to 50% means that an overpayment that once represented a slow, uncomfortable repayment process now represents an immediate financial emergency. And the only way to stop it from starting is to respond before it begins. The moment SSA begins withholding from your check, your options narrow significantly. Everything that follows in this video, every right you have, must be exercised before withholding starts. Now here is the critical part, the part that most people who receive these letters never hear about, because SSA is not required to explain your options to you clearly, and the letter itself does not make them obvious. When you receive an overpayment notice, you have two separate legal rights, and both of them, if filed correctly and on time, can stop the withholding from ever starting. The first right is an appeal. An appeal says, I disagree with SSA's claim. I believe the amount is wrong. The calculation is incorrect, or I was not overpaid at all. When you file an appeal, SSA is required to pause all collection activity while your case is under review. Your check continues at its normal amount while the appeal is pending. The form you need is SSA 561, Request for Reconsideration. It must be filed within 60 days of the date on the overpayment notice, though filing immediately is always better than waiting. The second right is a waiver. A waiver says something different. It says, I am not necessarily disputing the amount SSA claims, but I am asking SSA to forgive this repayment entirely, because repaying it would cause me financial hardship, and the overpayment was not my fault. A waiver does not require you to prove SSA made a mistake. It requires you to show two things: that repaying would genuinely cause hardship, and that you were not at fault for receiving the extra money. The form for a waiver is SSA 632, Request for Waiver of Overpayment Recovery. Filing a waiver also pauses collection while it's under review. You can file both at the same time. Many people do. An appeal challenges the amount. A waiver asks for forgiveness if the amount turns out to be correct. Filing both gives you maximum protection while your case is being reviewed. What you cannot do is wait. The moment SSA begins withholding, which happens automatically after 30 days of no response, you lose the ability to pause collection through an appeal or waiver filing. You can still file them after withholding begins, but SSA will continue taking money from your check while the review proceeds. The window where filing stops the withholding is before it starts. Form SSA 561 equals appeal, dispute the amount, pauses withholding while under review. Form SSA 632 equals waiver, request forgiveness, also pauses withholding while under review. File both if unsure. File within 30 days of receiving the letter. File in writing. There is a third option that doesn't get talked about enough, and it's relevant for people who receive an overpayment notice, don't believe they have grounds for a full waiver, but genuinely cannot afford to have 50% of their check withheld each month. You can request a reduced repayment rate. This is sometimes called an installment plan request, and it asks SSA to recover the overpayment at a lower monthly rate than the default 50%, an amount that reflects what you can actually afford without serious hardship. To request this, you contact SSA and explain your financial situation. SSA will ask about your monthly income, your monthly expenses, and your assets. Based on that information, they can set a lower withholding rate, sometimes as low as 10% or even less. In cases of genuine financial need, this option does not forgive the debt the way a waiver does. You will still repay the full amount eventually, but it spreads the repayment in a way that doesn't eliminate half your income overnight. For people who don't qualify for a full waiver but can't survive a 50% cut, this is an important middle path. Now let's get concrete. Here is exactly what to do on the day the overpayment letter arrives. Not eventually, not when you get around to it. That day. Step 1. Read the letter completely. Identify the overpayment amount, the time period SSA claims, covers the overpayment, and the date printed on the letter. That date starts your 30-day and 60-day clocks. Step 2. Decide immediately whether you believe the amount is correct. If anything seems wrong, the dollar amount, the time period, the reason given, you are filing an appeal. If the amount seems plausible but repaying it would cause hardship and you believe you weren't at fault, you are filing a waiver. If you're unsure, you file both. Step 3. Pull the forms. SSA 561 for an appeal, SSA 632 for a waiver. Both are available at ssa.gov or at any SSA field office. You can also call 1-800-772-1213 and request that paper copies be mailed to you. But doing this online or in person is faster. Step 4. Fill out and submit the forms in writing. Keep a copy of everything you submit, the completed forms, any supporting documents, and proof that you submitted them. If you submit by mail, use certified mail with return receipt. If you submit in person at an SSA office, ask for a date-stamped copy of your submission. Step 5. Follow up. After submitting, call SSA to confirm receipt and ask for written confirmation that your appeal or waiver is pending and that collection activity has been paused. Get a case number if possible. Document the date and time of the call and the name of the representative you spoke with. These 5 steps, done on the day the letter arrives, give you the maximum legal protection available to you. They preserve your rights, they pause the withholding, and they put your case in the official review process where it has to be heard. If you are watching this and withholding has already begun, your check has already been reduced, you still have options. They are fewer and the process is slower, but they exist. You can still file an appeal or waiver even after withholding has started. SSA will continue withholding while your case is reviewed, but if your appeal or waiver is granted, SSA is required to refund the amount withheld during the review period. The money is not gone permanently, but recovering it requires winning the review, and the review takes time, often months. If the withholding is causing immediate crisis, you cannot pay rent, you cannot buy food, you cannot cover essential expenses, contact your local legal aid office. Many states have legal aid organizations that provide free help with SSA overpayment cases and can file emergency requests on your behalf. Your congressional representative's Constituent Services Office is also a resource in urgent situations and can sometimes accelerate SSA's response timeline. The hardest version of this situation is also the most preventable. Every option you have is stronger before withholding starts than after it. The letter is the moment to act, not the missing check. So here is the full picture. An overpayment notice is a formal demand from SSA saying you were paid more than you were owed, sometimes because of a change in your circumstances, sometimes because of SSA's own error, sometimes because of a retroactive recalculation you had no way of knowing about. If you don't respond within 30 days, SSA can automatically withhold up to 50% of your monthly benefit, $800 on a $1,600 check every month until the debt is cleared. You have 2 legal rights that can stop that withholding before it starts. An appeal using Form SSA 561 if you believe the amount is wrong, and a waiver using Form SSA 632 if repaying would cause hardship and you were not at fault. File both if you're unsure. Both pause collection while under review. If you cannot afford 50% withholding but don't qualify for a full waiver, request a reduced installment rate based on your actual financial situation. And if withholding has already started, you can still file, but the process is slower. The options are narrower, and recovery takes months. The day the letter arrives is the day to act. Everything after that is harder. Subscribe. Share this with someone you know who receives Social Security. If even one person watches this before that letter arrives instead of after, it could save them months of reduced income and weeks of stress.